heirs with people's estates and wills. You think, going to probate the will. We'll just go through the necessary legal steps so the heirs can get the property squared away. So now we're starting to see that there's problems with that process, that sometimes guardians, executors, and sometimes court-appointed agents are not necessarily doing what is right and what has been documented by the deceased for their family to receive as part of their estate. So, Deborah, good morning. This has been a long trek for you with what's been going on. So just kind of tell everybody kind of the backstory of what got us here.
So, what got us here is back in on June the 29th, my late brother and my father passed away. At the time, he had a stepdaughter. Was mainly taken care of everything, and she was no blood relative. She was no family. She was just part of his wife, his wife.
Okay.
And so on July the 1st, he initiated probate under the impression that they was going to protect his assets, right? Because after his wife passed in 2020, he still was purchasing things. So my concern was just protecting his assets as well as the property.
Okay.
Because she was living in the property.
Okay.
So the case was assigned to Judge Margaret Renee Jones Johnson in Probate 3. And it was a dispute came up. The second attorney of the stepdaughter, well, the first one, he did a counterclaim after I filed the suit. Wilcox. That was Shamika Taylor, the stepdaughter, her attorney.
Okay.
So what he did was added himself onto my case, right? When he was supposed to initiate a case just for her, since her mom, she had part of it, right?
Okay.
But what they did was, didn't have a cause number, they attached themselves to mine, claiming that she was entitled to 1%, mainly with dishonest, right? Because she had no part of his estate. She only had a part of her mother's estate.
Yeah.
So that was resolved on September the 15th, 19th, after...
in what year?
2022. I was in 2022. Okay. I'm moving too fast. Well, on August the 31st, a temporary administrator was appointed, right? Because they said it was a conflict, a pending contestant. So, of course, I found out that she did not actually go over to the property. She pulled the information after a second attorney was added for Shamika Taylor, the stepdaughter.
Okay.
So she pulled that information off of that on September the 23rd. Mind you, my DNA test came back on September the 19th.
So what would there be a DNA test?
Well, the stepdaughter said I was not his child because we didn't have that relationship, right?
Okay, so let's rewind here. So your father passed away, but his second wife passed away in 2020.
That's correct.
Okay. So she had a child independent of their marriage, and so when your father passed away, she wanted to file a counterclaim on his estate.
No, she was not his child.
I get that. She was a stepchild.
That's right.
So she was filing a counterclaim against his estate.
That's correct.
Okay. So now from there, it was joined onto yours. How did that get separated out?
I got separated out on September the 19th. That's when the DNA testing result came that I was his child, right?
So that got her counterclaim that was attached to yours separated.
It was not separated until the end of December of 2022 when it was supposed to be immediately done. Judge Johnson did not do that.
Okay.
What she did was, her second attorney, she opened up the estate of Cassandra Johnson. And so that's how I found that out, which was September the 13th, right before my DNA test came. Okay. So mainly they was working behind the scenes.
Okay, I just want to kind of follow the steps here on you filing your claim, and then she files a counterclaim, but it gets attached to yours, and then that gets separated before we get into all of the DNA and whatnot. So that finally, the two claims get separated. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and that was in December of 22.
That's correct.
Okay. So from there, what happened once the claims were separated?
Well, once the claims were separated, they allowed her to stay in the house.
Now, was this house purchased with he and her?
That's correct.
Her mother, his spouse. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
They just mainly dragged it along because nothing was sold of his until the late of 2023. The judge allowed this temporary administrator who was only appointed to pending contestant, which was my blood results, right? Some way she continued to allow her to be on the case. I was not advised. My attorney, 2022 of November, he jumped off the case, and of course he put language in his reason for motion to withdraw was something with Sharon Fisher. That's the stepdaughter's attorney. And so, going into 2023, she continued to push motion for, first it was a motion for 30, extension for 30 days.
For the house that she was in that was purchased by both.
That's right, but
Okay.
she was only appointed for his estates.
Okay.
Now,
who was the she that was appointed?
Deborah Sherman.
Okay.
Sharma.
So this is the administrator that Judge Jones Johnson appointed.
That's
Okay.
correct.
It's a lot of moving parts here.
It
We
is.
gotta try to keep it straight and take one leg at a time before mingling everything together. So why was it an issue with her staying in that house if it was technically part of her mom's estate since it was purchased by both of them?
Well, the issue was that the property needed to be sold.
Why?
Because she did not have a job, a stable job. She was not able to keep up with the taxes. She was not paying any insurance on the property. And that was until I brought it to their attention. Why is she paying insurance, not paying insurance on the property? So of course, that's when she went and got some insurance. So then they allowed her to stay in the property. But first, the temporary administrator was supposed to be off the case. That's where the issue started coming in. So what she started doing was working with Sharon Fisher to prolong it.
Now, what part is Sharon?
She's attorney of the stepdaughter.
Okay.
But then she had the second case on September the 13th. So they always...
Okay, so to kind of keep things straight, instead of calling somebody's name, call who they are representing.
Yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Because it's getting real confusing.
Okay.
So, stepdaughter is staying in the house that both your father and his late wife purchased. Okay? So, the administrator was put on the case, and that's a lot of times what happens in probate court, to work through all of the proceedings and motions and whatnot. So you wanted the property sold because financially she couldn't be responsible. She didn't demonstrate that she could be responsible for the property.
That's correct, but that was after, because we have to go back to the ending of 2022, going into 2023.
Okay.
That temporary, even if she was staying on the case, she did not account for affairs correctly because she let the property sit up. Not the house, real property, personal property, which he had just purchased a new truck in 2020. He had purchased some more things. So she just let that sit up. The truck was taken from the driveway, placed on the street where Wells Fargo came and repoed it, right?
Okay.
So then she turned around in February and she did a TRO, which was temporary restraining order, which was to stop the sale of Wells Fargo selling the vehicle, which was on her because we have documentation that she came into the state saying she was not going to pay any money. She was not going to use her money. I had to pay this other girl. So mainly, she was representing the second case as well of her whole time being on the case.
Oh, okay. So nobody was paying for the truck.
No.
So when Wells Fargo do right to come and
Most definitely. And that was when he passed on June the 29th.
Okay.
She did not do her part. She did not go into security.
Was she trying to claim the truck or use it or what
I
not?
have no idea, but I know when she was placed, the temporary administrator, when she was placed on the case, her court order stated for her to protect these things of his. She did not do that. She didn't even go get a storage. She didn't allow me to get a storage. She didn't do anything. She just let it just sit up where it can devalue. And that's what the property
Nobody was paying for the truck.
Nobody was paying for the truck.
How could she protect that asset if no one was? And I'm just trying to understand. So if I'm the administrator and this was part of the estate, but there's still an outstanding loan on it, wouldn't it be in the best interest to liquidate those items that still had? So was that not done?
She never done anything.
So then creditors came in and started claiming repossessing items.
And that was the only thing. They did not have any bills. They would like my mother pay, even though we have credit, but just pay,
Pay
so
cash?
that was
Okay.
not cash. Pay your things off when you want to purchase by 6 months to get it on your credit and pay it off.
Okay.
So, but that was the only thing he had open.
Okay.
Nothing else. Nothing on the house. Everything was paid for. So that's what she did. She did not want to spend her own money to protect his assets.
So in his will, who did
He didn't have a will.
Oh, okay.
That's the issue. He did not have a will.
Yeah, that is troubling when there's not a will or a trust involved.
Yes.
So what were you expecting the administrator to do? Because it sounds like if that was an item that had an outstanding loan and nobody was covering the cost of it, then yes, I would let the bank come in and take it.
Well, again, that was when that case was initiated. It was July.
Okay.
Mind you, that was in February when the truck was repoed. So they gave her enough time to communicate with them, let them know what they was doing. I received my money before she got money, and then we was making an agreement. But when the judge ordered her, it stopped Wells Fargo. So I was communicating. What can I do? But she came in and she made them stop communicating with me due to the order. So in that order that was signed by Judge Johnson on the 31st, it gave her responsibility to protect. So even if she
or at least to execute
that's
taking
right.
care of
And she
these
did
things.
not. She did not.
So any assets that were owned by her father, be it jointly with his previous wife, his deceased wife, what ended up happening with those assets?
Well, Wells Fargo made an agreement to go ahead and release the vehicle on the truck. So it was released. But in that process, it was released back to her.
Oh, okay.
So this is where everything started to see that Judge Johnson was not for me, the sole heir. Mind you, I'm the sole heir. We had a hearing and she requested for me to place insurance on the vehicle, on the truck. And I was speaking up on that because I was like, well, I can add it on my insurance, but she can't. So of course I went ahead and made those plans, added it to my insurance, but my insurance was asking me who was going to be driving. So I said she was, and my insurance said they could not cover that.
Right.
So why? But the judge, she was doing this, and so she turned around and she was saying I didn't follow the judge. She was making stuff complicated. It didn't have to be complicated. She was mainly against me. She was not for me. She was against me. And I know why I had
And why do you say that?
Well, because just how they were, moving. It was not us coming, even though it was a dispute, it was a family dynamic going on. It was not like they was trying to get us to union. It was she didn't do that. She turned around and went in there and split everything up, which was his.
Yeah, who is she then?
I apologize. Deborah Sharman, the temporary administrator. What Deborah Sharman did was
The temporary administrator.
She turned around and she separated the community after the order was signed for her to sell all the personal property. She did not. The temporary administrator did not do it.
What did she do?
She only separated his assets, which was one truck, another paid for truck, a trailer, another truck, and then she also filed an application. The temporary administrator filed an application to sell those properties. Waited the end of the year to get an order for a company called Bullseye to come in and sell it. So when they did sell it, you ought to see all the percentage that came out. And then she devalued the truck.
Well, I mean, the vehicles do depreciate over time.
Understood.
Yes.
And so they called more red flags.
What red flags did that bring up for you?
Because we were able to pull the records from the DMV. What she claimed on her inventory that she sold it for, the people who registered in their names, they stated they purchased it for a higher. So those were red flags. I brought it up to the judge. I even filed a motion to recuse, but at the time I didn't have an attorney because they had pulled that one off the case after taking about $8,000 from me. And so she didn't want to hear that. She didn't want to hear anything.
Okay, so the temporary administrator took your father's assets that were and put those up for sale. So what joint property, what happened with that?
She just let it sit at the house.
What does that mean?
That means that she wasn't caring about that anymore.
So what were the joint assets?
1957. Of course, we don't know where the Camaro is at. Another truck and tires. So she let that sit there.
So 3 vehicles.
And one trailer. Well, yes, three vehicles.
Okay. So that was a community property and nothing was done with those?
No. Neither the house. So mind you, the house is those property.
Stepdaughter is still
At the house.
okay and doing whatever with those particular vehicles.
That's correct.
Okay, so it was just your father's assets that were, but this would have been dealt with your case. No?
Yes.
Your probate case, so it would have stood. I don't know because I'm not an attorney on this. It just is sounding really convoluted with just because your case would have dealt with your father's things, but I guess also the community things because I don't know how that works because if his wife was deceased, wouldn't they become all of his assets?
So what the judge was supposed to do, and the attorney for the stepdaughter was supposed to place an independent administrator or a dependent administrator. They bypassed all that. So they allowed this temporary administrator to work on this connected case.
Okay. So she was handling everything. Okay.
But she turned around and billed just this estate for $38,000.
For that was handling your probate.
That's right.
Okay.
And then in 2024, they was going to appoint the stepdaughter to be the dependent of her mom's estate. But of course, I addressed some issues, and I guess the judge went back and she voided that, and then she brought in another attorney, dependent administrator.
So what were the mom's assets? Because I would have thought that would have been dealt with in 2020.
That's right, 2020. Well, they didn't do anything. They didn't initiate anything. was supposed to remove her because she was only on there for temporary administrator, pending contested.
Okay.
That contested was resolved September 19th of 2022.
Okay.
Less than days.
Okay.
During that time of September 2022, her attorney initiated the case in another different number. So they never appointed anyone. They just mainly left that case open. Nobody worked. She was pushing barely the minimal documents in there. But this temporary administrator was flooding the state portal with unnecessary documents.
Like what?
Motion for extension, applications, amended application. It was just a lot of unnecessary documents that she was pushing just to prolong
Dealing with your father's estate.
That's correct.
Which was including or not including what was considered community property.
That's right.
Huh. That is very interesting. So was there any reason why there wasn't another person assigned to deal with this ownership item?
In 2024, roughly around August, that's when they placed another attorney on that case as an independent administrator.
Okay.
And so what he did, he got on top of it and he started, selling the house. He submitted his application around September of 2024. And of course, she didn't get out of the house until November.
Okay. So once that attorney started dealing with things, what did she do? The stepdaughter.
She moved. And during that process, they finally moved those vehicles, claiming that to storage. But per the document, she only, let me slow down. The temporary administrator claimed that someone was messing with the vehicle out of the stepdaughter, moved out of the house.
Okay.
And
so those vehicles were on that property.
And then she had to move without a court order. Okay.
Okay.
She did. She had to move the community properties way to Mansfield. Mansfield documents show there was only 2 vehicles there.
Okay.
So where was the other one? Someone was driving there because they went through the tollway.
Okay.
And so that was brought up to Judge Johnson. She turned around. She totally ignored that. She totally ignored all that. And then the temporary administrator submitted a motion. It was mainly to cover that. She went back and covered that. And Judge Johnson,
she that went back.
TA, temporary administrator, she turned around and submitted a motion to modify. Moving, the towing. So she claimed she had 3 towed, but she did not have 3 towed because the storage place she was supposed to have them towed to, it only have record for 2 vehicles.
Okay. And this is all coming out of your dad's estate because I guess mom had no money to build that from.
The TA?
I'm assuming. Yeah.
Well, she did have money because, mind you, when she was able to get the truck back, the 2020 Dodge, she had that money from that, which was $11,000 because it cost $40,000 to pay that off. And so she had that. She had other money because Wells Fargo turned around and gave her some more money. I guess overpaid or something. You know how you overpay, they turn around and issue checks and stuff. Yeah. So she mainly had over TA. Mainly had over $60,000 in her disposal. She had it.
But that was still under your father's estate.
That's right. She billed everything to him, and that was community property that she moved.
Okay.
So
that's why I was asking if the mom of the stepdaughter had any money, because it sounds like they were just going wherever there was money to build to cover the expenses.
And that's what she did. And Judge Johnson allowed that.
So, I guess again, the mom didn't have any assets or money to, because if it was considered community, then wouldn't both have paid for it?
Well, right? They were supposed to split it up, build the estate of Willie Floyd Johnson, and then build the estate of Cassandra. But that's not what happened. They only built his estate.
Okay. So did your attorney explain to you why that was occurring?
Well, my attorney who been on the case, she shut him down because if you go into the portal, he objected to those ridiculous fees.
Okay.
And sharing with the judge that she moved the vehicles without an order.
Okay.
But the judge didn't want to hear that. She told it, and you know, and that's a sad thing because it's documented that he shared with the court that she padded the charges. You know, even with the truck, she charged $2,000, stating that she stayed at the dealership to sell the vehicle. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, because
but the judge,
either they're paying for it or they're putting it up for sale. Yeah. Okay.
but she charged the estate $2,000. Hit my dad's estate, nothing over here, but that was his property. And like I said, she, the TA turned around and she got with the estate buyer, and they just went over and chopped that money off. That's all it was.
Okay. So did your attorney state, how it was supposed to go?
What's it?
Okay. So walk us through what your attorney said.
So, since she was working in a connected case, she was supposed to bill both estates.
Okay.
She didn't do that.
Okay.
She only billed
Now on that truck that your dad bought after your mom and stepdaughter's
that's not mine.
mother passed away, then yes, that would have been taken out of your dad's estate.
Right, but not $2,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the $2,000 was what she was charging for her time dealing with that particular vehicle. Yes? Okay. So your attorney said it was supposed to go what way for communities property? Split half and half between both estates.
That's correct.
So did your attorney say if there were any funds with her mother's estate to cover half of the expenses on anything?
So where the funds would come from is once that community property was sold.
That then the split was supposed to come out of
That's
there.
right. That's
Okay.
why it was supposed to be done that way, where he paid for half in this estate. Since she worked on both, and she didn't even have an order to work on both cases. That's
Okay.
the issue. She never had the order to work on both cases.
Okay. And this is the temporary administrator
That's right.
that was supposed to work, that was working on both, not ordered to work on both, but worked on both, and then the proceeds for anything community-wise would come out of those and not solely out of your dad.
And that's it.
Okay, so did your attorney file any motions with regards to that?
Yes, he did.
Okay, and what happened?
The judge shut it down.
What do you mean?
She didn't want to hear it. She granted the TA $38,000 out of my dad's estate because now he had over 30-some thousand with the vehicles, his personal as well as the community property, and then we only just had the house left.
Okay.
So she wants the TA wants her money out of the sale of the property, right? And then most recent, I just found out she put a lien on the property.
Okay.
I just found
So
out.
we bouncing around
Yes, I
here.
apologize.
Okay.
Mhm.
So your attorney filed a motion because the proceeds are not being taken out of the community funding or proceeds that are obtained from selling the community property is just coming out of your dad's estate.
Yes.
And so the judge did not rule in your favor.
No, she did.
She ruled that it would continue just to come out of his estate.
That's correct.
Any reason why that occurred that your attorney explained to you?
No, I was there in the hearing, so I heard everything. Even when I tried to speak up, she told me I had already done it.
So what was the reason for it to just come out? What did the judge say why it was supposed to
She
come
never
out?
gave me a reason.
What did your attorney say?
I don't want to go into it, but it's not right.
Oh, so what did your attorney say? We're not using the name.
Are you saying when he submitted the motion?
Yes, and then the
objecting
judge.
to it.
Yes,
She-
and the judge didn't rule in your favor. So
Mainly, she's hard to deal with. She's not following the law. She's not following the rules.
so did
And
y'all
she don't know
appeal?
what they are. Not right now, because it has to be resolved, right? That's what she was. But she was allowing the TA to get her money right off the bat because that's occurred. Can't appeal that. Cannot appeal that. I know it sounds
Yeah,
crazy.
man.
Yeah, it sounds
That
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's why she was signing those orders so they can go ahead and get their money off. Mainly, it's nothing. It's about money. It's about money. Judge Johnson is compromised. She know how I feel about her. I've tried to be respectful because I know the etiquette of the court. But it's strange how she behaved toward me. She didn't want me to speak up.
Well, typically, if you have an attorney, they don't want you because your attorney is supposed to speak on your behalf.
That's right, and that's why I see they were not allowed. Because even after the fact, when she granted this TA that assessing money, he and I had a conversation. I asked him about on the bond because the bond would show those fraudulent documents that she submitted into the courts, right? Which is blocked from everyone. It's just, it's blocked. You cannot see it. You know?
Okay.
And I was able to obtain that. And they fabricated invoices, and you could tell.
How can you tell the invoices?
You could tell that they were made. They was made. Even the invoices showing about the towing. That's not a towing receipt. Someone created that off like it was created. Even her showing that the TA sold the property to the Bullseye, and they sold it. Those are not correct invoices. Even how she went I've passed them on, and I've asked.
Oh, so you had them reviewed forensically?
Because a forensic audit was done on the estate.
Okay, so yes, let's talk about how did you get that forensic audit initiated and done? Because it's a lot of moving parts, and it's kind of hard to follow how things were fraudulent without demonstrating the proof that it was fraudulent. So talk about how the audit got to be.
Well, audit got to be with a dependent administrator who that my family got from me. He was the one, military retired professor, mediator. So his connection was the one, and that was brought to the judge's attention, but she didn't want to hear it.
So you got a forensic auditor independent of the court to review everything.
Not of the court, outside of the court.
I thought that's what I said. I'm sorry.
No, interested in the court.
Outside of the court to go through everything. So they took the information that you provided them, and their findings were
Fraudulent. It was fraudulent mistake.
okay. And how did they determine that?
Mainly going over what she presented in the final amended account, for her to be reimbursed for compensation for being over the state from September the 8th through February 17th, 20th, something like that.
So the charges, I guess, were outside of what was considered normal.
Which is only 6%.
Okay.
And Judge
Of any sales.
That's right.
Okay, so they were more than 6%. So what was the justification given?
She didn't even give it to me.
So the temporary administrator gave no justification for the overage of the standard fee collection.
She was not even questioned by the judge. That's the sad part. She was not even
Well, your forensic audit and your attorney would be making the motion to question that.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. My attorney was only working for me. The dependent administrator, he had to get his own attorney. This was per Johnson. She made him get an attorney. This was back in January of 2025. Mind you, they had just she just finally signed the order making me the heir, the only heir.
Okay.
In 2025, after I was able to get his body properly
Bury him.
Yeah, and she waited until 2025 to sign order for me to be heir. So to answer the question that you asked, this was Judge Johnson doing this.
Okay. But that wasn't the question. With the independent person and your attorney making this motion,
Right.
That was a question on raising those flags that there's huge discrepancies based on this forensic audit.
Well, so the dependent administrator, she made him get his own attorney.
Yes.
You just had to be in the case to see. For me explaining, it may sound confusing or no, she didn't do all this. She did. Because he turned around and got an attorney.
Yes.
And that attorney was not fighting for me.
Okay.
He was not fighting for me, which he's supposed to have the best interest of the dependent administrator.
Okay.
That's not what had happened. Because he pulled his information, the same information that my attorney placed objection to
With the
TA.
overages.
Yes.
Okay.
He did not do his own. He copied that and put it on and passed that on. And then we also found out that he was supposed, his first step when the attorney got on the case, he was supposed to file an inventory, right? He didn't do that. He filed an application to sell the real property, right? So in that process, you have to also file an application, the proposed order, as well as post notice, mainly giving the courts know that we're trying to sell this property. He didn't do that. He didn't even file any of that. He only filed an application.
So we didn't know, and I'll say we, but there was no listing of what was even there to say.
No. So we also found out, the dependent administrator and those others who have their eyes on the case, that she turned around and she was behind the scenes. The TA, I was going to say that, the TA was behind the scenes, mainly interfering when she was terminated from the case.
Oh, so she was still had her.
She was still filing application, disputing what he was saying.
Wow. So what did your attorney say to all of that?
Well,
This
Johnson had bullied him, right? And
Okay.
because I had asked him again to file a claim on her bond, and he said he was not going to take any food off
the
his head.
TA's bond.
And she
Okay.
had a $250,000 bond
Okay.
in case she mismanaged or
Okay.
committed fraud.
Okay.
He stated to me that he was not going to my attorney, that he was not going to take food off his table. So I left it alone. So I started getting advice outside. Those who coming from a legal family, was kind of guiding me behind the scenes what I needed to file. So I started filing things.
Okay.
But the dependent administrator was not doing anything for him. And
The attorney representing for the community property.
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah.
He was not doing anything. He was sitting on the case. And of course, the dependent administrator would bring it up to his attention. Hey, this needs to be filed. This needs to be stopped. He was totally ignoring it. He was turning around and asking him to sign documents, but he didn't even have proper exhibits to it. It was like he wanted him to sign documents that didn't even have the evidence.
Oh wow.
And then what we also found out during that process is that she didn't even pay any taxes on the house.
The stepdaughter.
The stepdaughter or the TA. Because the TA was supposed to submit an application to pay
Oh,
taxes.
to be able to handle
The taxes.
Yes. Okay.
So I know that.
Go ahead. About to sneeze.
Yeah. So that also created problems. The temporary administrator attorney, he did address that, but she came back and said since he's now the dependent administrator, that's his responsibility to pay, not realizing she had been on there since 2022.
In 2022,
23, and didn't pay nothing.
Okay.
And she tried to ship that over to him, and he said That's insane.
You were there. You were present.
And those taxes will come out of that house once I get it sold.
Yes, they will.
And the judge allowed that. She didn't address the taxes. So Miss Sherman, why you didn't pay? Well, Miss TA, why you didn't pay those taxes? She turned around and ignored all that.
That's interesting.
Very.
I know that reviewing these kind of issues, there are attorneys that do represent people in fraudulent heirships,
Right.
and try to mediate things. And unfortunately, when things are sold, they're sold, and you're hoping that you can try to salvage any remaining monies. Because the civil cases, yeah, you get awarded money. But if it's not there, then you have to go back to the court to force them to pay and garnish them and all that kind of stuff. It's very complicated, and I'm so sorry that this occurred because it's troubling.
Yeah.
One, get a will, get a trust assets. So in the event that something should occur, hopefully there will be some protections around that. So where is the stepdaughter with all of this now?
Well, I had to go to her grandmother's house, kind of get some signature, and of course the grandmother she has her own bills. Just a lot of stuff that it just didn't make sense to me.
Okay.
Because I know starting out, she was a party. I just recently found out that the grandmother was the one that referred the attorney to her. So, attorney referred the attorney to the stepmother.
Okay.
Who also has a sanction underneath her.
Okay.
And so, I was kind of feeling some kind of way. But I did, like I said, I was recently trying to sell the property.
Yes.
And the title company informed me that she placed a lien on the TA placed a lien on the property for the $38,000. And so I have to get that worked out.
What is the $38,000
for her compensation for attorney? I know. For her being on his case. Now she put a lien on this case, not on this case. Yep. And she attached the order that Judge Johnson signed for her way back in 2025. Because Judge Johnson, I sent her a notice of intent to sue, right? Because it is believed that she assisted this TA. Because she had continued to sign orders for her to extension and knowing she went above signing those motions. Because from the rules of the Texas State Code, the TA is only supposed to be on there 180 days, right?
Okay.
So Judge, she turned around and abused that. She did. She abused
so
that.
So the temporary administrator has been on there for years?
Yes, 2.5 years until she took correction. 22, 3, 4, and going into 25. That's when she was terminated.
Okay.
And so we had to go back to the hearing on her fees. And Judge Johnson awarded her all those fees with no questions asked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Also, she had a attorney ad litem on the case.
Okay.
And attorney ad litem was just only supposed to go in there to prove who I was, that I was the only heir. But when she got with my disinterested individual that was presented to her, she confused them, and they willing to come forward. But she turned around and signed her order for her application.
The ad litem.
That's correct. Okay. For $5,000. $5,000, which only in the beginning she was paid $500, right?
Okay.
So she stayed on the case all this time, never did her report as required until my attorney requested, hey, she's the only heir. Why are we not getting this? This needs to be resolved. So mainly what it was keeping me from being the heir, from documenting. Because even the title company gave me papers just the other day showing that they have this estate over here, her 2 children on there, but don't have me on his share. Don't have
you as the heir.
They have a question. Yep.
And so how did they because I told you to hold off on that DNA.
Yes.
So how did this DNA request come to be?
Well, the first one came to be when I was called that he had a heart attack.
Okay.
And so I found that the daughter was in the hospital claiming that it was just her and her brother was
The step.
That's correct.
Okay.
And so they resolved that. The hospital resolved that because I had to show them proof and everything. Of course, did some things they said I didn't require, but just to be able to move along with initiating the probate.
Yeah.
So we get into the probate. Her attorney, the stepdaughter,
Okay.
demanded that I did an affidavit DNA test. So mainly that's $1,200, and I had to start suing now.
To get a DNA.
On top of the money that I paid,
Even though he's on your birth certificate.
That's the thing. He's not on my birth certificate.
Oh, okay. All right. So then that comes back proving that
That's it.
you're his daughter.
That's right.
Okay. And then what happened from there?
Again, that's when everything was prolonged.
Okay. So things were being dragged out once the results came back?
Yeah. That's when everything started in 2022.
Oh, wow. So the DNA came
Back on September the 19th of 2022.
so it was requested in 22?
And I immediately done it.
Okay.
And it came back, and they still let
And
the
that
TA
was from
say.
him having a heart attack and being in the hospital. He hadn't passed away.
I was the one who had to give approval for them to take him on. Because the stepdaughter had placed him on life support,
Okay.
which she had no authority to do, mainly a HIPAA violation.
Okay.
And so when I initiated the case, again, her attorney at the time was a guy, and he turned around and he passed the case to the new attorney,
Okay.
who initiated the mom's case.
Right. It's
I know. Me. It's been, I'm only here because of the grace of the Lord.
no kidding. I wish I had called an attorney to kind of speak on some of this because this is a lot.
Well, the attorneys have texted us. They have been hindered in this as well.
Well, I mean, I didn't have them, just somebody.
Yes, I understand, but I'm just sharing with you because we also have to look at some attorneys that's operating in the probate court. They are compromised as well. I know you say don't bring up names, but you know I have no problems because they know I don't fear this. Okay, I fear the Lord.
Well, I just for demonstration of walking through everything and these names don't necessarily register because we haven't been involved with it all this time. So given who they're representing and whatnot makes it easier to follow.
Right.
Not using anybody's names, but just like Sheehan and Ted and Sally Ann. It's like, who are these people? So that's why. Attorneys don't like it suing other attorneys, even though there are rules around that.
They have to complain. They have to make a valid complaint showing if they have engaged, they have broken the code. And they do not want to do that for whatever reason. And I guess because their hands and their points are there. Well, that's what I see out of it.
True. It's like another doctor suing another doctor. You don't necessarily want to sue somebody that is a fellow of yours in the same industry. Not understand that because you'll end up seeing them and it can make for bad blood. But at the same time,
it's about accountability.
The people that are paying you for your service are expecting you to represent them, not represent your industry or your comrades, your counterparts in this. Because I have experience going through numerous attorneys with my family custody cases. So this is very sad. I don't want to discuss secret sauce, but what are you hoping to come out of exposing these type of dealings that are happening?
Well, we've put in place some things like you said, not just let it just play out, because that's what we have to do. That's how they have done. They did not expect for me to know anything. Like I said, even the attorneys that I had, they jumped off the case. Nothing that I did to them. They did not want to fight Johnson. And as you see, when she ran again, she didn't even have an opponent, right? That's what they're doing.
On the primary,
right.
Democratic primary. Yeah.
And that's concerning. And I know I have some connections inside of politics where they were saying they even reached out to Republicans to come in there, to kind of, attorneys to go in there.
Yes.
They didn't even want to be bossy.
Okay, so there's nobody opposing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, in that reason, with 3 of them, they said they want to go and retire. Then they'll look into C, because they've heard some different things and some real.
Who is that?
The attorneys.
Okay.
They have heard some concerning things that's not right that's going on in the probate court. So I believe they're coming together. They're just taking and I'm not understanding why.
Well, a lot of times you got to give people rope before you hang.
Yeah.
So it could be a
my
thing
aunt said that reason. Yeah.
Yes, we want plenty of rope, not just a
little
rope,
but plenty.
but plenty of rope, so it's a slam dunk.
Well, I found out that they're doing racketeering up in the probate courts.
Oh, right.
Because they're colluding with real estate.
RICO.
Yeah, RICO. Yes. They're strong-arming people to sell property that they don't want to sell. They're able to pay it. Going behind people's back, undervaluing the price on paper from behind us. Like for example,
And then selling it for a higher price.
like for example, with the order clearly states to sell it at private, right?
Yes.
So they'll go in there and attach documents stating that they got with a realtor, an extra, all this kind of nonsense.
Well, you can see it on the MLS what things are sold for. Money and commissions paid.
Well, some way they're going in there alternate for whatever reason.
They're alternate on the MLS.
It's
Or
something
with their documentation.
With their documentation.
Submitted.
Their documentation.
Okay.
I know.
What advice do you have for anyone that is getting ready to go through probate?
Make sure that your attorney is for you, because they are out to beat you too, to make you frustrated, right? Give up, mainly to give up, to accept what they want you to accept.
What they're willing for.
That's right. And
Personally.
yeah, and that's where it's sad at, because the creed clearly states what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to do, and they're not following. And I do know, we'll see. I don't want to speak on that yet, but
Right.
it's a lot going on behind the scenes. And like I told them, they need to be charged, because this is not one case. They have done other cases like this. And people go in trusting an attorney, right?
Yes.
That they're going to do right by them.
Right.
And when it's all said and done, they have taken the majority of all that money.
Yeah, I mean, you pay for a service,
Yeah.
not a broom up the butt.
Yeah. And then when you challenge them, they don't want to work with you no more, right? Because you ask a simple question, hey, why are they doing this? They want to push it back on you, like, you don't have a right to be asking me these questions. That's
Because you're not knowledgeable.
And I'm very knowledgeable, as they know now.
Yeah.
And so, and I came in there with knowledge. I don't have to go into my academics, my education, none of that. They knew that, because she started questioning me about my education. It was just crazy how Judge Johnson, because again, she's 99% responsible for that court, what's going on in that court, and she allowed this. I remember when I seen her on your show, and she was talking about guardianship. They are abusing guardianship, right? Because it's sad what they're doing.
So, if you are going through this, I would say document.
Yeah,
And Texas is a one consent state, so record. Unfortunately, you were not able to record in the Dallas courtesy of moi, because I did that to prove what was being argued occurred. So document as best that you can. I would request a court reporter always being present to document things, because then you can get the transcripts and stuff. So,
but not only that, when she see that's what they think. Even on Zoom, when you're doing Zoom, you know you go back and get those recorded.
yes. And
So a lot of people don't even understand that, you know, because what I know that they have closed that court, the probate courts up for particular cases, and they don't supposed to do that. The court's supposed to be open to all cases.
True.
But they make who they want to see in person.
Well, I'm sure if there's a minor involved, they're going to keep it closed and not just for the privacy of minors.
No, mine has been open. I mean, in private since started. But they have particular documents in the portal under his name, secret, like orders that she signed. I wasn't able to pull those up. Someone else had to get those for me. You know, and that was a sad. But yeah, documentation. I say still record, but you still can go. It's done on Zoom that you're able to go into
Request
Zoom.
that.
Request that.
Unfortunately, we have bad actors, and then it makes things difficult for the good actors. But as advocates and people, individuals, you have to advocate for yourself even when you have representation.
Yep.
So thank you for coming on the show to share your experience with this. Next weekend, the double feature for today is over. Thank you, the Glow Chateau, for being our sponsor for our shows. Next Saturday, we will have Chief Daniel Como with the Dallas Police Department here at Mocha Cafe Coffee and Tea to discuss his first year, FIFA, and what his plans are for his upcoming year with being the police chief in the Dallas Police Department. So, again, everyone, as I always say in closing, spend time with those that matter to you, because life is too short. Time is the real currency that we have here. It's a gloomy day, but still get out there and enjoy life as you see fit and the ones that you love. We will see you on next Saturday. Thank you.